So good morning, everyone. My name is Esther, and I'm a PhD student in economics at the Ecole Polytechnique in Paris. And I'm going to talk about water wars. You know those famous water conflicts you've all heard about in the newspaper, on TV, and everyone is scared about them. And you're right. I mean, when Barack Obama or Kofi Annan says that the wars of the next century will be about water, it's possible to be scared. And even the last James Bond, as somebody recalled here, not the last, the one before that one was about war and not about oil. That says really something, you know. But the fact is, you know, AXA doesn't talk about water wars, and this may be because of research, in a sense. Because if you look at the literature, the academic literature in history, geography, and in economics, you can actually see that there are very, very few examples of conflicts directly related to water. And in fact, the history shows practically no example of conflict where actually countries fought explicitly only over water. It's always related to a wide range of factors: economic, political, historical, cultural, etc. So what my research is actually set out to do, and what the first part of my thesis showed, was that if you look at, for instance, climatic variations, okay, everybody says because of climate change, there's going to be more water wars. Well, I looked at this for Africa for the past 50 years, and I actually noticed that the more climatic shocks you have, say if in a year you have very bad rainfall, okay, and you have high drought, then actually countries have more incentive to cooperate, okay? They're not going to enter war because of that. They actually have more incentives to help each other out, or at least try to negotiate some kind of help, okay? If you actually see, this is a very famous example, okay, the Nile River. Okay? The Nile is shared by over 11 countries, okay? So this is really hard to actually get along when you share, you know, a water resource between 11 countries. And what actually happened in the 1950s is that Egypt sort of unilaterally decided that the Nile River waters would be for itself and for Sudan, okay? Leaving Ethiopia mostly. Ethiopia is upstream. Okay, so that means that the Nile actually, you know, flows from Uganda and Ethiopia and up to Egypt, okay? So leaving Ethiopia and Eritrea in a very bad state, okay? But at the time, these countries were very weak politically and economically, so they couldn't retaliate, okay? But what happened now, I don't know if you saw it in the newspapers in the last 2 weeks, but Ethiopia, you know, has planned finally to build one of the biggest dams ever in Africa, okay? And this is, you know, a very good project. But what's happening is that Egypt, you know, is scared and really feels threatened by this project because it's actually overhauling the status quo that's been going on for 50 years, okay? Oops. Thanks. But what happened? Egypt did not say it would actually retaliate. It did not say it would wage war to Ethiopia, okay? If you read the newspaper, actually the president says, well, you know, we have no other choice but to negotiate, okay? So you have to keep this in mind, that water wars actually in the academic literature have not really happened and are not really likely to ever happen again, okay? But so this was the first part of my research, and I was, you know, kind of disappointed because I heard about water wars and I wanted to see more about that, and actually found out that there were water wars, and they're not really. So, but I learned this other very interesting fact. And this fact is that when you're actually having a glass of wine, you're actually having over 100 liters of water, okay? If you add to this, let's say, a pizza, okay? You're having a margarita with your glass of wine, you're actually also consuming over 1,000 liters of water, okay? So what am I talking about here? I'm obviously talking about the water that's been used to produce these goods, okay? And this water seen as an input for a product, it's called embedded water, or virtual water, as you may have heard about it, okay? So virtual water is basically this sort of water that we can consume and that we can trade, okay? If today at lunch you consume some beef, okay, and the beef was made in Argentina, so it's very good, but it means that you're actually consuming a good that withdrew water from another country, okay? So you're virtually importing the country, and you're virtually importing the water from a country, and you're virtually taking the resources of Argentina, okay? So I talked about beef, I talked about wine, pizza, but you can think of a whole other stuff, you know, that contain water. And so this is me, you know, at my office, and this is the photo I actually submitted to the AXA photo contest that was, you know, aimed at PhDs. And so you can see, I work in an office, okay? I work with a computer, I analyze data, you know, I'm not on the field, actually, so that's not very good to say, but it's true. And you can actually see that everything that surrounds us, you know, has water in it inside, okay? So, I don't know, for instance, my 50 centiliter bottles of water, it's not only the water that's inside, but it's every water that was used to actually, you know, build the plastic component, okay? Computer, this is a global average, okay? Books, of course, because of the trees, are the most water consuming here, actually in my picture. So it's 150,000 liters, okay, just to produce these 12 books of econometrics I have. I don't know if it was really useful, you know, in the end. And so tea, 20 liters to actually produce my little tea bag, okay? And of course, there's, you know, access PhD students, that would be me, so it's 156 cubic meters per month, okay? This is for an access PhD student in France, okay? Because in France, we eat a lot of meat, we drink wine, etc. So actually we have we're in the European average, but it's one of the highest, you know, that we have in the world, okay? So imagine this. We're talking about virtual water, and what could be actually a solution to conflict and actually a reason for why there has been no real water conflict is because we've been exchanging virtual water for years, for centuries, okay? And one of the theories, which one I really wanted to work out, but actually it didn't, was that in the end, countries who don't have a lot of water can easily import goods that contain virtual water, okay? So say you're Mali, okay? Mali doesn't have, you know, a lot of water resources. They can just import meat or cereals or other goods that contain water, and then boom, you know, the water scarcity problem is solved. But in the end, when you look at trade of virtual water around the world, it's not at all the case, okay? You have to know that water-rich countries exchange water products between themselves. Okay, so Brazil will send meat to the United States. The United States will send cereals to Canada, and Canada will send, I don't know, rice and maize to Europe, okay? And all of the other countries who are water scarce do not get that many water-embedded products just simply because, well, you know, you need money to get those products, okay? So my aim now is actually to understand trade of virtual water around the world, in a hope perhaps to explain someday that this is why there hasn't been any real water war. And the next aim will be to look at how do you price water. Okay, I don't have time to explain it today, but this is really an issue related to the fact that water as an input is not rightly priced, like you would price capital or labor, okay? So this is the main thing I wanted to show, and I hope you remember it, you know, today or tomorrow when you eat. I love meat, so I'm not telling you to become vegetarian, but, you know, it's a good thing to have this in mind. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.